Don't give up, a story of overcoming incredible obstacles in love. Amelia and Julian first met in the most unexpected of places, an overcrowded, chaotic train station. She was running late, clutching her luggage and trying to navigate through the crowd, while he was immersed in a novel, standing calmly amidst the rush. As fate would have it, she tripped and stumbled right into him, her face flushed with embarrassment. She mumbled an apology and their eyes met. It was the kind of encounter that feels like a movie scene, the world slowing down around them, everything else fading away. Over the next few months, they built a connection that was easy and exhilarating, the kind that makes you feel like you've known each other for a lifetime. Julian was a dreamer, an artist who saw beauty in the smallest things, while Amelia was a pragmatist, grounded and logical, balancing his wild imagination. They were complete opposites, yet they fit together perfectly, each complementing the other's strengths and weaknesses. When Julian laughed, his joy was infectious. When Amelia spoke, her calm voice could soothe even the most restless soul. But life wasn't ready to let them have their fairy tale just yet. 2 years into their relationship, Amelia was diagnosed with a rare heart condition. The doctors were straightforward, outlining the risks and the reality that her condition would only worsen without a transplant. She was devastated, terrified of what the future held, not only for herself, but also for Julian. But as soon as she tried to pull away, tried to spare him the pain of a potential goodbye, Julian held her tighter. "We're in this together," he whispered, his voice steady, even as his heart broke. "Don't you ever think I'm going to let you go." The next few years were a blur of hospital visits, treatments, and sleepless nights. Julian became her rock, always by her side, comforting her through every painful moment, holding her through every sleepless night. He would bring his sketchbook to the hospital, drawing little portraits of them together as if trying to capture every moment, every memory. They found a rhythm amidst the chaos, creating tiny pockets of joy even in the bleakest days. He would surprise her with flowers, write her notes that he'd slip into her hands when the pain became too much. And every night, he'd remind her of their dreams, the house by the sea they wanted to buy, the trips they'd take, the life they would live together once she recovered. But despite their efforts, the wait for a transplant grew longer. Weeks turned into months, months into years. Amelia's condition continued to deteriorate, and Julian's heart ached watching the woman he loved suffer. She was a shadow of her former self, yet her spirit remained strong. She would smile through the pain, cracking jokes, finding joy in the little things. She tried to reassure Julian, but he knew she was fighting harder than she ever let on. Then came the worst blow. Amelia's doctors informed her that her time was running out. They were no closer to finding a donor, and the chances of survival were growing slimmer by the day. Amelia was crushed. She felt the weight of defeat pressing on her heart. But as she sat alone in her hospital room one night, tears streaming down her face, Julian walked in and wrapped her in his arms. "I'll never stop fighting for you," he whispered. "Don't give up on us. I believe in miracles, and even if we don't get ours, I'll be by your side until the very end." Months later, just when all hope seemed lost, a miracle happened. A match was found. The call came in the middle of the night, and they were told there was a donor heart waiting for her. It felt surreal, like a dream they were afraid to wake up from. The night before the surgery, Julian stayed by her side, holding her hand, whispering all the things they would do once she recovered. They cried, laughed, and clung to each other, terrified yet overjoyed at the possibility of a future they had almost given up on. The surgery was long and grueling, and Julian spent every second pacing the waiting room, his heart pounding with fear and hope. After hours that felt like an eternity, the surgeon finally emerged, giving him a nod and a reassuring smile. "She made it," he said, and Julian felt his knees buckle with relief. The recovery was a slow, painful journey, filled with setbacks and challenges. But Amelia was alive. She was stronger, her body slowly healing, her heart carrying the love that had sustained her through the darkest days. Julian was there every step of the way, his faith in her unwavering, his love shining even brighter than before. Years later, they finally bought that house by the sea. On their wedding day, with the waves crashing behind them, Julian read a letter he had written during one of Amelia's darkest nights. In it, he promised her the life they had fought so hard for, the love that had been tested and survived. He promised her forever, knowing that they had already defied every odd, overcome every obstacle. As he read his vows, there wasn't a dry eye among their family and friends, who had watched them endure trials most could never imagine. Amelia's cheeks were wet with tears, her heart beating strongly, full of love and gratitude for the man who had fought for her, who had refused to give up even when hope was just a faint whisper. Their love was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, the resilience of the heart, and the power of faith. They had faced death, despair, and hopelessness, yet their love had emerged stronger, more profound, unbreakable. In the end, Amelia and Julian's love story became a beacon of hope for others, a reminder that sometimes, even when all seems lost, miracles do happen, and that no matter how dark the road, true love has the power to endure, to heal, and to bring light to even the darkest of places. They had found their forever, and for them, that was the greatest miracle of all. Amelia and Julian's love story had captivated everyone around them. Their resilience in the face of unimaginable odds was inspiring, and their love, tested by pain, strengthened by time, became something of a legend among their family and friends. But their journey was far from over. Just as they had begun to settle into their peaceful life by the sea, life had yet another challenge in store for them. One evening, as they were enjoying the golden sunset on their balcony overlooking the ocean, Amelia received a mysterious letter in the mail. There was no return address, only a small, intricately folded note sealed with wax. Julian noticed the concern in her eyes as she carefully opened it, revealing a single line: "Love like yours is rare. Protect it with everything you have." The note was unsigned, but something about it sent a chill through her. It felt like a warning, almost as if someone knew them intimately, knew the battles they had fought, and was reminding them not to grow complacent. They puzzled over it together, discussing who might have sent it, a friend perhaps, maybe a family member. But there was no one they could think of who would send something so cryptic. Days passed and life went on as usual. Amelia had started working part-time at a small local art gallery, and Julian had taken up a teaching role at the community center. They were grateful for the quiet life they had built, each day filled with small, joyful moments, whether it was a stroll on the beach or a simple dinner under the stars. Then one day, on Amelia's way home from the gallery, she noticed a stranger watching her from across the street. He was a tall, imposing figure, dressed in dark clothing and wearing a hat that cast a shadow over his face. His gaze was intense, fixed on her with an unsettling familiarity. She hurriedly walked away, her heart racing, trying to shake off the feeling of dread that followed her. But over the next few weeks, she continued to see the same figure at odd times and places, outside the grocery store, near the gallery, even in the background during one of her evening beach walks with Julian. Amelia kept her suspicions to herself, not wanting to worry Julian. She told herself it was a coincidence, that it was nothing to be afraid of. But the unease grew. The stranger's presence was like a dark cloud, hovering over their life, just as they were finally finding peace. One evening, unable to bear it any longer, Amelia told Julian everything. He listened carefully, his face a mask of concern and determination. "You're not alone in this," he reassured her. "We'll find out who this person is and why they're watching you." They agreed to be cautious, sticking together, and Julian began walking her to and from work. But as they tried to move on, strange things began happening around their home. Amelia would find items mysteriously moved from where she'd left them, a window slightly open when she was sure she'd closed it, and one evening, Julian found a single red rose left on their doorstep. He took it inside, examining it closely, but there was no note, no clue as to who had left it. They reported everything to the local authorities, but without any concrete evidence, there was little the police could do. Days turned into weeks and the tension built, wearing on their nerves and patience. Their once peaceful life felt fragile, under threat from an invisible force neither of them could understand. Then, one night they received a second letter. This time it was addressed to both of them, and was filled with phrases that chilled them to the core. "You've faced death before, Amelia. Do you really think it's gone for good? Julian, you stood by her through it all, but not every story has a happy ending. Remember that your love is rare, but that makes it fragile." Julian's hands shook as he read it aloud, his face pale. They stared at each other, a shared terror reflected in their eyes. Who was this person? How did they know so much about them, about the trials they had endured? In the days that followed, Julian took it upon himself to protect Amelia at all costs. He became hyper-vigilant, questioning everyone around them, even their friends and colleagues. He installed cameras around their house, locked every door and window, and never let Amelia go anywhere alone. Their peaceful life was shattered, replaced by constant anxiety and vigilance. One rainy night, as they were sitting together, Amelia broke down in tears. "Why is this happening to us, Julian? After everything we've been through, I thought we had finally earned our peace. I thought we were safe." Julian held her tightly, his heart breaking for her, for the peace they had lost. "We will get through this," he promised. "We've survived the impossible before, and we'll survive this too." But the stress began to take its toll. Julian grew increasingly haunted by the thought that he might not be able to protect her, that this mysterious threat would tear them apart. Amelia saw the toll it took on him and tried to be strong, but the fear weighed heavily on both of them. Each day felt like a struggle to reclaim the happiness they had fought so hard to build. Finally, they decided to take a weekend away, hoping a change of scenery would help them find clarity. They booked a remote cabin by the mountains, far from the city and the shadow that had been haunting them. For 2 days, they managed to escape the fear, finding solace in the beauty of nature and the simplicity of being together. But on the third night, they awoke to the sound of footsteps outside their cabin. Julian jumped out of bed, his heart pounding, and motioned for Amelia to stay quiet. They listened in the dark, fear thickening the air, and then came a knock on the door. Julian slowly approached, his breath shallow, and called out, "Who's there?" There was no answer, just silence. Mustering his courage, he opened the door, only to find a single candle flickering in the night, casting a shadow on a small note beneath it. He picked it up with shaking hands, reading the words that seemed almost like a curse. "Some loves are too bright for this world. Keep her close, Julian, for you may not have her forever." The reality of the threat finally set in. This was no coincidence, no simple prank. Someone was watching them, knowing their every move, intent on driving them to the edge. Determined not to live in fear any longer, they returned home the next day and reached out to a private investigator, hoping to uncover the identity of their tormentor. Over the weeks that followed, they retraced every moment, every interaction, until one day, they got a breakthrough. The investigator uncovered an old connection, someone from Amelia's past, a distant relative of the organ donor who had saved her life. The man had lost a loved one and, upon learning about Amelia's survival, had become obsessed, convinced that she had somehow cheated death while he had lost someone dear to him. It was a painful revelation, the knowledge that their love had inspired darkness in someone else. But armed with this knowledge, they confronted him, with legal measures keeping him far from their lives. Slowly, peace returned, and they found strength once again in each other's arms. They had survived the unthinkable, tested not only by illness and loss, but by fear and obsession. Yet through it all, they held on, refusing to let go. Their love had overcome impossible odds, a bond unbreakable even in the face of the unknown. And as they rebuilt their lives, They knew that whatever future lay ahead, they would face it together, unyielding in their love, stronger than ever before. After the ordeal, Julian and Amelia returned to their life by the sea, more aware than ever of the fragility and the strength of their love. They both felt as though they had been given a second chance, a chance to truly live the life they had always dreamed of, free from fear and uncertainty. And as the days passed, they began to rediscover the beauty and intimacy that had first drawn them together. One cool evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Julian took Amelia's hand and led her down to the beach. She was wrapped in his jacket, her hair flowing in the soft breeze, and for the first time in what felt like forever, they laughed freely, the echoes of their laughter blending with the sound of the waves. Julian watched her, his heart swelling with gratitude and love, and he felt a deep desire to remind her of just how much she meant to him. "Do you remember that house we used to talk about?" Julian asked, his voice soft as he looked at the shoreline. Amelia smiled, her eyes sparkling. "The little blue house by the sea?" she whispered, her heart beating faster. Julian nodded, a glint of excitement in his eyes. "Come with me, I have something to show you." They walked hand in hand along the shoreline, the stars beginning to dot the sky as twilight faded into night. He led her up a gentle path to a small, cozy house nestled among wildflowers and dune grass, with soft, blue-painted shutters and a white picket fence. The place was filled with charm, as if it had come straight out of one of their shared dreams. Amelia's eyes widened as she took in the sight of the house. "Julian, did you?" He nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "I bought it for us. After everything we've been through, I realized I couldn't wait anymore. Life is too precious to keep putting our dreams on hold." Tears sparkled in Amelia's eyes as she looked from the house to Julian. "I can't believe it," she murmured, her voice trembling with joy. "It's perfect." He guided her to the front door, and together they stepped inside. The house was small but warm, with windows that framed the ocean like a painting, and a fireplace that filled the room with a soft amber glow. Julian had decorated it with touches he knew Amelia would love. A shelf lined with her favorite books, soft blankets draped over the couch, and fresh flowers arranged on the kitchen table. Amelia looked around, unable to hold back her tears. "It's like everything I've ever dreamed of. You made it real." Julian took her hands, his gaze filled with tenderness as he wiped a tear from her cheek. "I wanted us to have a place to call our own, a place where we could build our life together, without fear, without hesitation. I want this to be the place where we make new memories, our sanctuary, just you and me." Amelia wrapped her arms around him, and they held each other in the soft light of their new home, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace and gratitude. That night, they spent hours talking by the fireplace, laughing, dreaming, planning for a future that now felt more real than ever. They reminisced about their journey, the struggles they'd faced, and the strength they'd found in each other. Every word was a promise, every laugh a shared hope for the life they were building together. In the weeks that followed, Amelia and Julian settled into their new home, finding joy in the simplicity of everyday moments. They cooked together, explored the little town nearby, and shared long, quiet evenings watching the sunset over the ocean. Julian set up an art studio in one of the spare rooms, encouraging Amelia to paint again, while she turned a corner of their bedroom into a small library, filling it with books they would read together on rainy afternoons. Their love deepened with each passing day, filling their home with a warmth that seemed to come from a place beyond words. It was as if every challenge, every hardship they had faced, had only served to bring them closer. They lived each moment fully, savoring the time they had, grateful for the journey that had led them to this point. Then, on a crisp autumn evening, Julian took Amelia's hand and led her down to the beach, much like he had on the night they first saw the house. This time, he knelt down on one knee, a glimmering ring in his hand, his eyes full of love and vulnerability. "Amelia," he said, his voice soft and steady, "you are my best friend, my partner, and the love of my life. We've been through more than most people could ever imagine, and yet, Here we are, standing on the other side of it all, stronger and more in love than ever. I can't imagine my life without you, and I don't want to spend another day waiting for someday. I want every day, every moment to be with you. Will you marry me? Tears filled Amelia's eyes and she nodded, her heart overflowing with happiness. Yes, Julian, she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Yes, 1,000 times yes. They embraced as the waves crashed around them, the world fading into the background as they held each other, their love unwavering, unbreakable. Their wedding was small and intimate, held in the backyard of their little blue house by the sea. Surrounded by their closest friends and family, they exchanged vows, promising to love and protect each other through every storm, to cherish every moment, and to never take for granted the precious gift of each other's presence. Their love had survived every test, every hardship, and now they were free to live the life they had always dreamed of. In the years that followed, they filled their home with laughter, with the sounds of friends and family, with the gentle hum of everyday life. Julian painted portraits of Amelia, capturing her beauty, her strength, her grace, and she filled their home with her art, each piece a reminder of the love that had given her the strength to keep going. They traveled together, fulfilling the dreams they had shared during their darkest days, and they created new dreams, new memories, building a life filled with love, joy, and gratitude. And whenever life grew challenging, they would sit together hand in hand and remember the journey that had brought them here, the love that had carried them through. Their story became a beacon of hope for others, a reminder that true love can endure any trial, overcome any obstacle. They were living proof that even in the darkest moments, love has the power to heal, to uplift, to transform. And as they grew old together in their little blue house by the sea, they knew that they had been given the greatest gift of all, a love that had not only survived but thrived, a love that would last for all eternity.